Hello, my name is Jack Heritage, practical karate instructor from the Cotswolds.
And I am Pat Woodward, amateur enthusiast and practitioner in a number of separate martial arts styles.
And welcome back to the Armchair Combatives podcast.
It's nice to be back in the studio with you again, Jack, as always.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure to be sat here and having a chat to you. How's your week been so far, Pat?
And my week's been very good, mate. I turned 28 on Friday, which is, well, to be fair, it doesn't sound that old, but I'm already on my knees though at work. So, it's one of those. I will say, slight spoiler for the episode ahead, but Jack and I were lucky enough to be hosting the great Ian Abernethy today for a seminar on locking and trapping. Very enthusiastic. I will happily name and shame a couple of guys in the changing rooms. If you're listening, you know who you are. But the first thing I saw them both do was pop about 5 ibuprofen. I kind of sat there going like, boys, this is a scathing indictment of the future. And you know what? I'll call him out by name. Stuart James, you looked me dead in the eye and you went, get ready for the future. This is what awaits you after the next 5 decades of martial arts.
Oh my god.
So, well, putting aside all of my personal pain,
yes.
Why don't we just quickly get the how would you call it? Let's just get all the fine details out of the way.
Yep.
As always, please feel free to head over to your chosen podcast platform or YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us 5 stars, leave us a comment. Any engagement is good engagement, even if you're just telling us your favourite flavour of ice cream. Obviously, you can find us on various different parts of Instagram, Facebook, as I said, YouTube, at the Armchair Combatives podcast.
Absolutely.
So please feel free to go ahead and get involved. Any engagement pushes us up the charts. And the more popular we get, the easier it will be for us to be able to get content out to you as quickly as possible.
One of the things I'll just add to that, Pat, is the fact that the more of you guys listening, the more clout we get, the more interesting guests we will be able to get on in the future.
We have got 2 absolute corkers for this season. 2
Absolutely.
incredible special guests. 1 local talent and 1 international superstar. I'll say no more than that, lest my excitement get ahead of me.
Absolutely.
But without further ado then, Jack, simply based on the fact that it's fresh in our heads and sore in our muscles, I wanted to talk to you today about something that I think is a really archetypal part of the martial arts experience, and that is the wondrous conflagration of people that is the martial arts seminar.
Oh yes.
Bringing together people from all over the country. I would go as far as to say all over the world.
Yeah.
We've already been lucky enough to host Rokis Leo, from he's obviously come all the way from Lithuania to give us that fantastic seminar on self-protection and kind of a lot of the things that he's been working on, a lot of the lessons he's learned from filming USDC.
Yeah.
So, what I think I wanted to start off with is as a medium of training, how effective do you think the seminar is? Because I will freely admit, I've gone to a couple of seminars and I've grinded the drills 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I've come away and I've gone, I don't remember a fucking second of that.
Yeah.
That's, information overload has just completely rinsed me off. I will put the addendum, I've never been to a boring seminar.
So, I think the whole seminar thing is really interesting. Now, like you say, today we've been training with Ian. So we hosted him for locking and trapping. Obviously, for those of you that aren't familiar with Ian's work, he's very karate based. He's what I would describe as an expert in karate in terms of his knowledge and his experience. And he bases a lot of his stuff around more traditional aspects of karate, including kata and application. And he's obviously been doing seminars now for decades, and he knows his stuff. And the other thing I like about Ian is that when he does his seminars, I've never been to a seminar and thought, fucking hell, here we go again. He always brings in really interesting stories, keeps everybody slowly progressing throughout the drills and the exercises to make sure that we're all getting the idea. If he's noticing stuff that's not working, he'll always bring it back, make sure we're focusing on the finer details. And I like to think that by the end of the session, you feel like you've got quite a good comprehensive set of skills that you can use. Now, I think seminars themselves, I think, are a brilliant way so I'm going to talk about it from the point of view of a club, point of view of the instructor. I think seminars is a brilliant way for fucking networking. Right?
Oh yeah,
The more,
100%,
you've got the
100%.
opportunity to get a lot of people in a room where you can, in the nicest way, sell yourself and go, hey, like, come to our club. Like, we offer biscuits and tea and coffee as we did today. But the thing is that like it's a great opportunity to build a bit more of a community with the people that are your peers within the industry or people that could be potential students to you one day. And I think it's really important to make a good impression with that, but also hosting interesting people. And like as an instructor of a club, it gives me that freedom to go, you know what would be really interesting, getting so and so in to do this, or getting so and so in to do this, because I feel like that would be really good for my students to learn, or it'd be good for other people that I know to learn. And it gives me that freedom to really explore the martial arts without being tied down to just what I do or just karate, or you get the idea. From your point of view then, Pat, obviously I'm sure you haven't done much in the hosting of seminars, hosting of people. However, like, how have you found training at different seminars? Because obviously I've hosted a few that you've attended, but also I've gone to seminars with you. So what's your general?
I think it's a really. I will always say like, I love an opportunity to get out to a seminar.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you do meet a lot of people who you'd never train with normally, you'd never meet. I'm always really impressed when you meet somebody. And, these seminars aren't necessarily, they're not like military boot camps. It's not like they start at the crack of dawn. But it's kind of like I'm really impressed when I meet somebody. At, an 11 o'clock start at a seminar, let's say, and everyone's looking quite fresh, and there's kind of one person who comes in on their own, and you kind of get chatting to them, and it's like, yeah, I was actually up at 6:30 today because I've come from the north of Scotland, I've come from Cornwall or something, and it's like that right there is just it's impressive, it's wonderful. It's like these people have decided, they will go really the extra mile. Or the extra couple of 100 miles in some cases to really, get to the bottom of their craft. And it is just a case of, as you say, even if it's not even on the instructor level of these are people that I like to have in my circle, these are not people, these people I like to host for my own seminars. Even if you get out of that kind of mindset, it's really nice and fresh to just get with a whole new group of trainees, people who are maybe part of your style, but they're from a different subset, or karatekas follow different schools and kind of see how they do things. Even I think the best ones are when you get people from all sorts of different styles coming together to learn under one guy. When we hosted Jeff Chan a couple of months ago, it was really nice to have some karatekas, some Muay Thai fighters, some of Jamie Clubb's students. Jamie Clubb himself was there. We had a boxer. We had some guys who were there from BJJ schools, and it's kind of yes, it's Jeff Chan that's drawn these people to the room, not necessarily CKS. We're no roomers to ourselves.
No, definitely not.
But it is just kind of like, it was really cool seeing like how do certain people adapt to these drills, and it's this kind of beautiful melting pot of like not necessarily always training with other karate people, and just really getting to the meat and bones of like, in this moment we're all martial artists. We're not karate guys and Muay Thai guys and BJJ guys. At this moment, we're all martial artists, and we're all here to see this one guy because we think he's got it.
Yes.
We think he's got this one, a solid system or a solid piece of information, and we want to get a little bit of that mojo in our lives and in our systems and in our styles.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really. It's always been something that I've never minded traveling to, and it's kind of a really pure experience for me, because I've been to seminars where it's not necessarily you're met with hostility. But it's one of those where, for example, when I was still training Aikido, I was recommended to go and train under a with a kind of group from Cardiff, who were hosting a French Aikidoka
Yep.
master. And when I got there, I was kind of a bit taken aback because it was kind of like there's a lot of white belts, there's a lot of black belts.
Yeah.
And I was there in my orange belt. It was a bit like, oh, okay, stand out a little bit. And what I didn't realise was, because of the kind of traditional style of Aikido that these guys did, it was common practice for, if you had achieved a black belt, you were a black belt. If you had not achieved a black belt, you were a white belt. No matter what grade you are, it's a very traditional thing that was not explained to me until I got there. At which point I did not have my white belt on me, and I kind of stuck out, which initially made me feel very visible.
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie, but it's one of those where I don't think there's any conceivable reason why they would have consciously gone, well, we won't tell any of the people that we use this very specific, very traditional Japanese ideology when it comes to our belts when foreign instructors come to visit, simply to make them look silly in front of the master. I don't, and you know, there's no kind of universe where that makes sense to me, but it's one of those where it's a really interesting moment of. I think it was described to me as these are the moments that make you a traveller and not a tourist.
Yeah.
These are the moments where you can kind of admit, okay, hold my hands up. I didn't know this was a thing. I can't do anything about it now. I'm not going to kick up a fuss, but I'll know for next time to ask that question.
Sure.
I'll know for next time, like, what is your? Do you follow this? Do you follow this white belt thing? And instead of kicking up a fuss and feeling like, oh well, they snubbed me. They made me stand out. They wanted to embarrass me in front of this traveling Aikidoka. It's not about that. I have trained with people who I know on a fundamental level I disagree with, whether it be the style they practice, or the even as grandiose as the political beliefs that they espouse on their Facebook page and things like that. I've trained with people who I know fundamentally as a human being I disagree with, and I probably wouldn't hang out with or go to dinner with or anything like that. But in the interest of we're all martial artists, we're all here to learn martial arts. It's not even like that all gets put aside. It doesn't even come up.
No.
We're all here for the same reason.
Yeah.
We're all here to have a good time and train in what we believe and what we love.
Yeah.
And I think in a weird way
Totally
that is I think that's a really beautiful thing.
I totally agree. I think the seminar circuit for me, especially, so I've been doing British Combat and Karate Association seminars now for a minimum of, what's that, was it 2026 now? I think the first one I ever went to was 2021 or 2022. And that was when I was kind of like first really jumped in with 2 feet into the practical world of karate, at least. And within that time, I've trained, I don't know, somewhere between 10 to 20 different seminars with various instructors. Many of those times have been with Ian. Obviously, he kind of like dominates the space because he's been doing it so long, and you know he knows how to sell himself, and he knows how. Obviously, he's also built up a kind of like a follower base of similar kind of people that turn up to these kind of things. Like majority of them, funnily enough, are instructors. They're people that want to learn and implement this stuff into their classes. But the nice thing is that the first one I went to, I was absolutely shitting myself because obviously I was a black belt at the time. What was I at the time? I was either a second or a third dan at the time. I was a third dan. Sorry, I was a third dan at the time, and I remember going in thinking I might be a third dan at my club, but I'm certainly not a third dan in practical karate. And I remember walking in thinking everybody here knows what I'm doing but me. Or knows what they're doing but me. And I remember just going into that room thinking, Jesus. Because I don't know if you've ever, for any of the listeners here that might have attended some of these kind of seminars, you walk in and I swear to God, like 90% of the people are fucking black belts. And
Mm.
it's so intimidating. You walk in thinking, oh shit. And then you actually get to know some of these guys and have a chat to them. And within 10 minutes, I was so at ease. I had people that were like, "Hey, oh, you're new to this, now. My name's so and so. Da 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 da. Yeah, I'll train with you today. Obviously, we'll train together, and I'll make sure if you're struggling with anything, I'm here to help." And then, obviously, good instructors will make sure they're coming around and correcting things and making you feel like, oh, it's okay that you've got this wrong, that you're doing this really well, but here's something that you can do better. And I was made to feel like this is like a really welcoming environment. Whereas I think in my head, I heard practical karate and I was like, these guys are going to be fucking brutal. And if I make a mistake, they're going to punish me for it.
Oh yeah.
And
One of my most memorable seminars was I went and trained practical Aikido with Stefan Bernadetti,
Mhm.
who, for those of you who don't know him, is a wildly gruff Italian man. And it's just, and it was so like one of the two of the most memorable instances of the seminar were, again, there's me, kind of fresh faced 17-year-old, who's he's got his first car and he's driven himself down to Wales, which was also the longest car journey I'd ever done by myself.
Yeah.
And so I'm already there shaking on the steering wheel, and I get down there and I'm kind of I'm training with this guy and he corrects my technique and I go, oh, thank you, sensei. Just kind of, and he stops, but it's calm, it's not rude. He goes, I'm not a sensei. Thank you, but I'm not a sensei. And I kind of went, oh, but you're wearing a black belt. And he goes, yes, but I don't teach, and that's an important distinction for you to know. And he wasn't saying it to be rude. He was like, don't equate black belt with the word sensei. It means teacher. And in that moment, that as I said, fresh-faced 17-year-old, God, 11 years ago now, I'm going, oh wow, like I hadn't quite equated that in a weird way. I knew it was kind of fingers and thumbs, not all black belts were senseis, and not all senseis were black, that kind of thing. But it was that weird thing of, it was that gentle reminder of, you might almost offend somebody in a weird way.
Yeah.
And again, you kind of go in there, like you said, when you're young, or it's your first one, you do go in there and you think, God, these guys are gonna blow my head off if I do the worst thing. And there was a really great moment where we're all lined up. We're doing these partnered sword drills with the bokken, the wooden sword. And there's like 40 dudes in this hall, this one long hall in the middle of the Cardiff wilderness. And from like halfway down the line, I just hear you, and I look up and he's pointing directly at me, and I'm like, oh God, this is it, this is the last time I train martial arts. And he goes, do you know how to hold a knife? Across this room. And my friend James, who's this lovely big gentle giant of a man who I'd been talking to and obviously invited me down, he goes, he's a chef actually. And everybody just laughs. And then for the rest of the day, like, this is the thing, not in a derisive way, it put me at ease as much as it made everybody else laugh.
Yeah.
And again, and it's that thing of, it's memorable in the sense of, there's 40 plus people in this room. He's one dude, he's here to teach, he's not going to learn everybody's name. But for the rest of the day, I would do something and I would hear, Chef, you need to move your feet more. and it would just be, and it's that thing of like, you feel seen, you feel remembered. And it's those little instances where, like, he probably doesn't remember me. Let's be honest. It was 11 years ago now. But it was that thing of, it was those little moments where, like, these are the moments where you feel accepted.
Sure.
In the martial arts communities. And don't get me wrong, I've had my bad experiences at seminars.
Sure.
But for every I mean, I'm not being funny. My same sort of time frame. 18 months later, I went to a Yoshinkan Aikido seminar in London, and a guy who had just come back from a 1-week black belt retreat threw me on the mat and dislocated my shoulder. So, I've had my bad experiences. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But for every bad experience I've had, and I say every as if there's been any more than one, maybe two bad experiences at a seminar. For every bad experience, I've had 100 memorable moments, and I think that there's such a marker of community as much as they are a place for you to learn from this one specific dude. Don't get me don't because okay, let's use Ian as the example. Ian's a phenomenal instructor. I'm not going to move to the north of England for the sole purpose of I will be adjacent to the Ian Abernethy School of Karate.
Yeah, exactly.
So that I can train from him every week.
Yeah, sure.
Don't get me wrong, if I end up in a point in my life where I need to move up north or I want to move up north, I might as well try and get adjacent to the Ian Abernethy School of Karate just so I can start training with him. But at the same time, if he's in this neck of the woods, why wouldn't I take advantage? If you or other guys from the club are going to see him in another location, let's go together, because that's kind of like, rather than us being like, yeah, let's go and swing our dicks around and be, we're Cotswold Karate School. It's the thing of like, it's the community of we're getting together, we're taking time out of our days, out of our weeks, we're taking time off, we're taking holiday, we're gonna go and we're gonna see this seminar as a group.
Absolutely.
And as a group of friends, not just, we're not like loading the tour bus up with every single student. If they all want to come, great. But it's the idea of, as a community, as a group of friends, as a group of people linked by our specific love,
I would say
we're travelling up and we're going to do it.
I think, the community side of it is really important for me. And today, I said earlier in the podcast, but I want people to feel welcome, because that's how I felt when I went to my first seminar. And if I can do that, but even better, then for me, I'm providing that for somebody else, because there is always somebody that comes to these seminars for the first time or trains with somebody for the first time, and they have that, I'm really nervous about this, I'm not sure about this, I'm getting worried that I'm going to, make a fool of myself, or I'm not going to understand it in the same way that other people do. But if you just have that community that can be that body for you, that kind of welcomes you in and goes, hey, welcome, we all began at this at some point. We're here to help you. Obviously, if you haven't done Ian's content before, or whoever we're hosting, or Jeff's content before, don't worry, we'll walk you through it if there's anything that you don't understand. We're here to help, and we're not going to judge you if you don't understand it. For me, that's more important than the person you're hosting. That's more important than how long the seminar is or what the content is. If you feel welcome in that space and you feel like you are being supported and cared for, you are far more likely to build confidence, first of all, in yourself, but also confidence in, the drills and the stuff going on, because you're not going to be going into that room with the preconception of, I have to get this right or else I'm going to be embarrassed, or I'm going to be judged if I can't do this. A good example was today. Like I said, we were doing locking and trapping, and the guy that I was working with was a kumite fighter. He's really good guy. I think he's trained with Ian once before. His style of karate is more competition based, so he is competitively fighting all the time, and fucking hell, the guy could move, and he has some good shots on him. And you could tell though that trapping for him is a newer skill. And this isn't me putting him down. This is just me saying this is not something he does on a regular basis, and because of that, some of the drills we had to take a bit slower at the first, because funnily enough, I don't want people coming to seminars that I'm hosting feeling like, oh shit, if I work with Jack, he's going to be an arsehole to me, and if I'm not going quick enough, he's going to judge me, or I was like, oh yeah, no worries, mate, we'll just slow it down a bit. At the end of the day, that's not bad for me. I'm still learning. I'm still picking up stuff here. Some of those drills I'd never done before, and I was looking at him saying, I don't know, fucking know, you tell me. and it was just one of those things, though, I think, you don't want to be that guy at the seminar that is, I've been doing this for years, and you don't know anything, and this is the kind of the point of the argument that I wanted to talk about today, Pat, really, is talking about the pros and the cons of seminars. Now, I think the pros we've hit a fair few, and there's more we'll mention today. But the con side of it, if I can just start us off, is you sometimes don't know who you're going to end up working with.
No, I will freely admit today, there's always that little moment where you can kind of feel the initial spiel coming to an end, and you start edging towards your mates because you don't want to be caught. And I was caught in the same situation today. And I'll hold my hands up. I got lucky. But you don't want to be caught in the scenario of all of my mates are either paired with each other or with other people, and you're just left with some guy. And
Yeah,
you
sure.
you got to get to know somebody in the space of that, whilst also internalizing a martial art. You don't know what this guy is. You don't know what this guy does. You don't know. You don't know how hard they hit. You don't know what style they do. You don't know what belt they are.
Sure.
You don't know what belt they really are.
Yeah.
It's kind of and it's been a really interesting example of like it's good to go with a friend because then you know who you're training with. You could quite easily say it's good to get out of your comfort zone and train with people that you don't normally train with. I appreciate that's not a mentality everybody's ready for.
No.
Not in a sort of I'm the trendsetter kind of way. I appreciate that like I know plenty of people who have enough trouble leaving the house, let alone
Sure.
leaving the safety of their club to go to a completely different part of the country and train with 20 people they've never met before. I know that that's stressful. That's stressful to me, and I'm quite an outgoing person, so I completely can understand that. And I mean, as I said, I ended up training with somebody at a Yoshinkan seminar. This is not Yoshinkan bashing, by the way. I just happened to be at an Aikido seminar that was run by a Yoshinkan school.
Yeah, sure.
It's how I remember it, not because I think all Yoshinkan are bastards, but it's how it goes. But this is the thing. I was training, I was training with who I thought was a sensible black belt, and for whatever reason, did I feed to him too quick or too hard? Did he not? There's always a numbers for whatever reason. I got injured on the mat.
Yeah.
And everybody I talked to about it was horrified because this is the gentle art of Aikido.
Yeah.
And we not in the sense of like it should be something that is for sheerly by its design it's measured and it's controlled, and if you're a black belt you should know how to execute technique without injuring your uke. Because even if you take it back to the very basic principles, if you beat up your training partner, you don't have a training partner, you can't train.
Yeah, sure.
That's a universal principle of martial arts.
Exactly.
If you go around, yes, we're training how to smash each other in the face. If you actually go around smashing your partner in the face, you're not going to have very many partners very soon, and then you're not going to be able to train, and then you're not going to get any better. That's the short version.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I do think there is something to be said for we're quite lucky because we know who we're getting. If it's Ian Abernethy or Jeff Chan or Rokis Leo or Jamie Clubb, we know we're getting a tried and tested metric of quality.
Yeah.
There are definitely people out there who aren't at the level to run seminars. So I would almost make sure that if you are thinking of going to your very first seminar, you either go with somebody that a trusted instructor has recommended or a seminar run by the trusted instructor themselves.
Sure.
Just to kind of get that first initial community feel, because there's nothing worse, even at the level of me having done 20 odd seminars in my martial arts career, there's nothing worse than going to a career and going to a seminar and being like, this guy doesn't have a fucking clue.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't think I've had a massively bad experience of seminars that have bad content. But you certainly notice when there is a difference in skill level of an instructor. And for me, I think, one of the cons of seminars is that there's often a lot of content trying to be pushed your way in a short space of time when you actually take it into account. Okay, imagine going up to Ushiba, right, and being like, right, I've got 4 hours, teach me everything you know about Aikido.
Yeah,
right?
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work like that, and this is why we have seminars on specific topics, right, or specific things, because obviously nobody can teach a system in 4 hours. However, even when you break it down into, so we'll use today as the example, right, locking and trapping, there is still a lot of content within that short period of time that we're trying to get across. What Ian's trying to get across. And you're looking at it and you're thinking, so I think Ian does a really good job of this, because I think he breaks down the drills quite nicely. He makes sure that there's competency within the room before he moves on. if I got a feeling for Ian, if there wasn't competency, he would strip it back and go, right, okay, they're not getting this. There needs to be a little bit more time on this, and he's done that before, right? If he notices something going on, he'll be like, right, shit, we need to sort this out before we move on, which I think is a good thing to do as an instructor, because that's how I'd run a class, right? In a class, if we were doing, okay, let's just say we were drilling jab cross, and somebody can't even throw a jab, we need to go, okay, well, before we add fucking add a turning kick on the end of it, we need to make sure that your jab's working, and so that's a good way of kind of balancing it. But the point I want to make is that there is a definite skill level to be an instructor. There's an even bigger skill level for being an instructor of seminars, because you are not working with these people necessarily regularly. They might only ever meet you for 4 hours. And you've got to try and make sure that you're catching up to speed on the basic stuff that they may not be aware of that you teach.
100%. And I think the kind of really two really good examples of this, to draw kind of two comparisons, one end of the spectrum and one of the other.
Yeah.
Would be, so today we work for let's say just under 4 hours.
Yeah.
We did have a small break, but we work for basically 4 hours of content, and I feel like we didn't stop for 4 hours. There was no point.
Consistent.
There's no point where we were humdrumming the same topic over and part of the topic. We're just drilling now for the sake of just nailing it into our heads. We're always constantly flowing. We're keeping the pace. The pace was really solid today. But you then go to the end of the session, and something that Ian's excellent for is he insists he films a demonstration video for the benefit of those that were present, so that they have material to reflect back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you take 4 hours of work, and Ian distills it into 6.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're looking back at the video, in 6.5 minutes, he explains 12 movements.
Yeah.
Realistically. Because so if we break down the content from today, it was a 4-step trapping sequence.
Yep.
And 5 locks. That's 9 moves. We spent 4 hours on 9 moves. But I don't feel like I wasted time because it's only 9 moves. If anything, I feel like there's more we could have gone over on those 9 moves. And yes, It's a case of where it's linked to being like, it's actually being brought back to, this is the Naihanshi kata, and these are the applications of Naihanshi, and it's really good that we're getting that feedback and that knowledge from Ian. But if you break it down, it was 9 moves in 6.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And somehow we spent 4 hours working on that, and we went right up to the wire on those 4 hours.
Oh yeah, we were getting kicked
out. we were getting kicked out of that room because it was literally a case of we could spend another hour on it easily.
Oh God, yeah.
Similarly, when we were training with Jeff Chan, we had 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours with him on ostensibly 1 sequence.
Yeah.
Because it was the case of we were just learning how he strikes.
Yeah,
sparring context, and they were very intelligent movement, very intricate. A lot of information. His pace was rigorous. I felt, at least, and I feel like in a weird way, I benefited and I did not benefit from the fact of I had as a partner a very inexperienced sparrer.
Yeah,
because. Yeah, the guy I was with, he's been training with CKS now for like 3 or 4 months, maybe longer.
Probably longer than that. Probably
okay.
closer. However long.
I won't name him here just because I don't want to shame him. This is not what this exercise is about at all. And I will say he was incredibly gracious to message me after the seminar to apologise, to basically say, I'm sorry, thank you for bearing with me last night, Pat. I hope you still got everything you wanted out of that seminar. And I explained to him, yes. Because this is a very alien sparring technique to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big guy, I'm lazy. I like to make small movements. I don't like to chase my opponent. I don't like to bounce on my feet. I know I'm light enough, but I don't like to be actively bouncing. I know I'm a lazy sparrer, and and this is the thing. I know it's bad technique. Feel free to come and flame me in the comments.
Do it.
I'm to prove a point. I'm too lazy to read the comments. No. But it's a thing of like I would rather eat a 60% power shot to give 100% power shot. I'm lazy. I'm not even going to hide it. But so a lot of what Jeff was doing, a lot of these very, very fast, very mobile techniques that really employed almost scientific levels of understanding of how you apply force to then apply force to then apply that same force in an escape motion to kind of get those little timings of like you bait your opponent out, you go in for that lovely cross they were showing us. That's all information that I'm actively having to process myself for the first time too.
Absolutely.
And so in a weird way, to then have to process that information, to then provide that information to a student that doesn't have as much sparring experience as I do, was kind of helpful.
Yeah, of course.
Because I had to internalize it, digest it, and then produce it.
Yeah.
What that does mean is I left that seminar utterly exhausted.
Oh, 100%.
Mentally and physically, I left that seminar utterly exhausted. Because I was having to work 20 times harder. Because not only am I absorbing all this new information, I'm trying to then put that information in a way that I know this guy will understand and then train it, and then having to teach him how to spar properly. Again, this is not me ragging on another student. I'll freely admit, I don't have any intention of bringing this guy down. This is purely a constructive exercise, but it ties back into your point of you don't know who you're getting. Because we're trying to go for drills that only work if you deliver what I would describe as an honest feed.
Absolutely.
You deliver a punch, and it needs to be a punch that would, if it was allowed to connect, really solidly connect with the head.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had to break this guy out of the rookie mindset of I'll deliver the punch so that he can utilize it, but I don't want to hurt Pat because I like Pat, so I'm going to punch about half an inch off the end of his nose, which is terrible form. It comes from a really lovely place of I don't want to hurt Pat, we're just doing the technique, but the whole point of the technique that we're doing is it's an advanced sparring technique. You need to deliver me a solid enough shot that it goes to the right place, which is past me.
Yeah.
I need to slip this shot, and it needs to end up past me, as if it was an actual punch designed to take my head off. Honest feed.
This kind of ties back into like the drilling thing, right? It's don't do bad drilling.
This ties back into last episode. It's bad drilling, and we've all been there. Because,
absolutely.
You'd be sparring with your best mate, you'd be sparring with your dojo brother, and you're like, I don't have the heart to, like, elbow him in the chops. There needs to be an understanding of, like, you need to give an honest enough feed so that he knows his block works.
Yeah.
I don't want to hammer fist this dude's head off. Yes, but you need to swing in a way that means that he has to move.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't have to move incrementally, your training partner will get lazy.
Absolutely.
And if your training partner gets lazy, it's impacting both of your training regimens.
Like you're learning basically how to punch and miss, and they are learning how to respond to something they don't need to respond to.
Exactly. The reason I'm allowed to make this point and Jack is not is because I just said I am lazy.
Yeah.
But I'm allowing myself to be lazy because I put the effort in beforehand. The reason I can spar in a lazy manner is because I have a style, quote unquote. I have a system of sparring that works for me. I prefer to be a reactive combatant than a proactive combatant. I like to wait for attacks to come in so that I can move off, so that I can evade, so that I can grab and strike. I rarely like to be the active combatant unless I know somebody else is more patient than me.
Yeah.
This is something that I've understood about myself through 10 years of sparring experience. This is something that I've understood by sparring with people like Jack, with the black belts at our club, with the non-black belts at our club.
Yeah.
These are lessons I've worked hard to internalize. I'm not a bad sparrer, touch wood. Jack can obviously say to the other ones, but I will hold my hands up and say, I'm fucking lazy. If there's a guy I know who is smaller and faster than me, I need to be fast when he comes to attack me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to expend the energy chasing his little ass around the ring because for every step he takes, I expend 2.5 times the energy he does because I'm 2.5 times the mass of some of the sparrers in our class.
Sure.
If there's a guy that's bigger than me, I need to be faster. I know that, so I've worked hard to be fast. When I need to be fast, I can be fast. When I need to be steady and solid and immovable, I can be that as well. If there's a sparrer that will come in and I know that their 100% is my 50%, it makes it sound like I'm sparring kids at this point, which I'm not. But it's kind of, but
He's always there for the kids class.
just as an example, okay, first of all, we're beating that allegation straight away. I do not.
There's going to be comments like,
I do not loiter around. I do not loiter around the kids' class. There's that thing of like, again, but then again, that comes back into like it's a tangent that I've kind of offshoot to kind of do a full circle or rubber us back into the point of there are people in our club. There are people in Jamie's club that I've sparred.
Yeah.
That I know that a case of like, okay, I know that this person is quick. I know that this person's a good grappler. I know that this person's an excellent striker. I know that this person turns his back when he does his kick combo so I can punch him in the back of the head if I'm not feeling very nice. These are lessons that you learn by knowing a select group of people. This is not information you're going to be able to have in a sparring seminar.
Yeah.
So this is where, like, I'm not saying, like, this is the time to bring your A game and dominate the field, but it's more, this is an element of, I have enough understanding of myself to know where my weaknesses as a sparrer lie. I know that about myself. I have to trust that if I went to a sparring seminar, say the kind of locations were reversed, and rather than Jeff Chan coming to us, I went to Jeff Chan.
Yeah, sure.
And I went to spar I went to train in one of Jeff Chan's sparring workshops in the States. I know all of this information about myself, but I don't know any of this information about these other people. So the only option I have is to spar honestly with these opponents. And that's something that you know about yourself. There's a very kind of Kurosawa-esque quote that I read recently, which is, reputation is what other people know about you. Honor is what you know about yourself.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a nice quote. It's very t-shirt worthy. CKS
Link in
merch.
bio.
Link in bio. CKS merch. No, but but again, it's one of those things where like to kind of really knuckle down on maybe the cons aspect of seminars. You don't know who you're getting, and there's something to be said for because you don't know who you're getting. You need to be honest. If somebody's hitting you too hard, you are not a coward. You're not a wuss. You're not a pansy for saying, "Bro, we're just training. Bring it back." Yeah. If you're padded up and you got your head guards and your gloves and your shins, you're ready to go. Then you're gonna take some hard shots, but that's what the pads are for. Even then, if you're getting absolutely socked in the gut with roundhouses or with uppercuts, something like that, again, you're not a bad person. You're not a poor martial artist for going, bro, okay, you can do it.
Yeah. But
like, I'm not going to be able to keep the pace if this is the strength with which you keep hitting me. I'm not conditioned. I'm not some Adonis.
Yeah.
And it's very much, again, there's a great example from, again, I think from one of notes from the kind of seminar that we went to where it was Christian Vadavor and Ian Abernethy.
Yes.
Wonderful seminar. I'll be honest. I've got. That's where I picked up Christian's book. It's a fantastic. It's a fantastic. If you can get it, go and support him, please. He's a fantastic martial artist. But his whole ethos is we're here to hit people, hit them. We're not here to knock each other's teeth out, but like don't give anybody love taps. If we're here to learn how to strike. Do it sensibly. Do it under control. Don't try and knock your partner's head off. But we are here to hit people. People should know what it's like to be hit.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very sort of Spartan ethos just to speak about it. It's not as bad as all that. He's a very lovely guy. But there was a great example where I was training with a good friend of ours, and when this guy wants to hit, he hits. And I was getting really knocked about, and I was starting my blood was starting to get up. I'll freely admit, and I started giving back, and he just kind of goes, "Oh, Pat, chill out. You don't need to be hitting that hard." And in that moment, I was almost offended. I was like, "But you've been sacking me around the head for the last 5 minutes," and I kind of went, "Oh, all right, I will, but can you chill out a bit as well then, if that's the case?" He's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Because in his head, he doesn't know he's hitting too hard until I tell him. Because he can't feel what I feel. And if you just let it escalate, then the best case scenario is somebody going, "Man, chill out. We don't need to be doing that." The worst case scenario is on the seminar mat, you're just amping, and somebody's going to get hurt.
That's exactly it. And this is why, if for any of you listening that have trained with Christian before, he starts most of his seminars with some really fun, like, get to know you drills.
Oh yeah,
and
to
be fair, seeing as we're all talking about seminars, I actually was at a seminar with him last week, and he was doing a seminar. His seminar was on striking. Les Bubka was doing a section on grappling, and then Brian Bates was doing a section on locking. And interestingly, Christian was starting off the seminar, and he was getting us to just greet everybody, which I really like as a part of as a big pro to the seminar. As like I said, community feel. Everybody's like, so you're running around the mat, you're doing just basically do-si-doing your partner, hitting him a couple of times in the tummy and going, "Hello, my name is Jack. Hello, my name," and you just go around and play with this, and it's really fun, and you keep it nice and light, and the word I'm about to say, I know is going to bring fear into the hearts of people that have actually experienced it before, but Christian's compacting drill is it's a bit of a test of character. But Pat brought up a really good point of it's being able to call out your partner and say, "Listen, you're hitting too hard," or you can go a bit heavier if you want to, or "Am I going okay?" It's that communication, right? But this drill is you go up to your partner, you hit them twice, they hit you twice. The idea is you hit them hard enough that they can feel it, and they respond back. Now, very much like Pat, I've gone with people with this drill that are basically like they're scared to touch you. And because of that, I've said to them, like, "You can hit me. It's okay." I've also been on the other side of it, though, where somebody is hitting me for the first time I've ever met them, and they are absolutely walloping me to the point of, like, this isn't fun for me anymore. And the really important part, is that ability to talk, and it's that ability to kind of, like, set the boundaries with the person that you're training with. But as a seminar thing, it's a really interesting way to get to know somebody and also get used to the fact that in this seminar you are going to be making contact with people, and it isn't going to be feeling particularly pleasant the whole way through. However, as long as you're doing it in a way which you're both enjoying and you're both happy with, then it's absolutely fine. One of the quotes that Christian said on last Saturday, which I absolutely love. I'm not going to do it in his German accent, by the way. But he basically said, "Karate is a feeling, and that feeling is pain." And the thing that I really like about that is that, bearing in mind, he followed that up by saying, "You only believe something if you feel it." And you can say all day long that as a seminar instructor that this technique works, this technique's great, this technique's amazing. Yeah, this is all you'll ever need. You're not going to know that unless you actually feel it being done to you, and you feel it with somebody. Like Pat was saying, needs to be like a good compliant partner for that drill or for that exercise. You need to have somebody that's actually going to feed it to you in a way which means that you can actually get what you're trying to get out of it. But also, when you feed it to them, they're actually going to give you a little bit of resistance to the point where it's like, oh shit, yeah, I can see how this would work. And feeling is believing. One of the things, a bit of a sidestep now, but still on the same kind of path. One of the things that I find is the biggest con for me when I go to a seminar is people not using them in the way that they should be used. Now, what I mean by that is that for me, a seminar is a repository of knowledge. It is not a replacement for training. For me, if I wanted to really, really deep dive into how an instructor teaches and how they put together a syllabus and how they, I would, first of all, I would talk to them privately or I would try and train at their club. A seminar is going to be a very specific set of skills that you are trying to take away from that seminar. Now, when I say that people don't use them properly, I usually find that people collect seminars. And don't get me wrong, I used to do this.
I think I know where you're going with this, but yeah.
And so as an example, because seeing as we've been using him as an example the entire time, right? Ian does a lot of seminars that are specific on kata. So it'll be, today we're going to be looking at the applications from Jion kata or something like that. Yeah. You go along and 9 times out of 10, you'll probably do somewhere between 50 to 80% of that kata. And it'll be a selection of different techniques that you can use using the principles of said kata. Now, the thing that I think is great about that is that if you already know the kata, you walk away from that seminar going, I already know the movements, now I can put a technique to the movement from the solo form. And I can take that away and go, I remember this. However, if you go away from that seminar and never practice those things again until you see Ian again, you're never going to actually get better at the movements or the techniques that you've just practiced.
No. I will admit, it did surprise me. I didn't think that's where you were going with it. Where I thought you were going with it is because I've seen it in the past with essentially every different martial art I've practiced.
Yeah.
Is you'll go to a seminar and there's always 1 or 2 people there who have not been on a mat since the last time there was a big name seminar.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah.
So
that too.
And to be fair, these people are without. This is the thing. This isn't a pejoration game or anything like that. This is just my experience. These are usually men. These are usually men over the age of 50, and these are men who kind of, they dust off the gi, they dust off the black belt. And they get themselves together and they go for the seminar of, they go, it's going to, let's go along to seminar. And it's a case of you can tell it's a social aspect.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, definitely not.
But it is and it's one of those where, don't get me wrong, I've never trained with somebody necessarily of this reputation. So I don't think there's necessarily ever been an instance where this person having a place in the seminar is stopping a promising young 20-something karateka or Muay Thai fighter or Aikidoka from training with the legendary Ando Shihan, for example.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where it's the case of, are you... No, I'm not even going to say, are you here for the right reasons? Because seeing your friends from your old glory days and experiencing and socializing with these people in a context that is unique is not a bad reason. But there is an element of, you kind of combine it with the cons that we've talked about, you don't know who you're going to get.
Yeah.
If you don't go with one of these old mates, if you're saddled with somebody who is there to learn rigorously and you're there to dust off the gi, throw a few punches, see some old mates, spend a Sunday afternoon and bob off home again in time for question time, is that necessarily the best use of that training partner's time.
So, well, my automatic argument would be no.
No, and again,
yeah,
and this is what I mean. I know it's a very pejorative thing to say, and I know that it's not, and I know that there are people out there who, for no other for the reason of injury, for the reason for the reason of family, for the reason of their work life, and like that, they can't afford to be on the mat every day of the week, and so they do make the effort at the time of seminar.
Yeah.
There is, like there's one guy in 100,000 is kind of the archetype that I've mentioned, but I think it does kind of pull it right back to the con-based thing of, you almost need to be an honest training partner in the sense of, am I the right person to train with this person today?
For me, I totally agree with everything you just said in terms of there's nothing wrong with being that guy. There's nothing wrong with, this is a social aspect for me. I just get to see my friends. Maybe you don't have a home dojo anymore. Maybe you don't train as much anymore. So for you, it's that dipping your toe back into that life. Maybe reliving the glory days. Maybe it's just the fact that you just literally just want to spend an afternoon doing something that you love. And maybe you just you don't have the rest of the time to do it. Maybe you only have 4 hours in you every 3 months because you maybe a little bit older. Maybe, like you say, you've got injuries and all this other stuff comes up. And this is just a way to keep in that world. The issue that I was more trying to bring up was the people that don't use the seminars for their own benefit. Now, what I mean by that is, as an example, like if you are an instructor and you are, you go to one of these seminars that's covering content that you think is really interesting. For me, I wouldn't want to go to one of those seminars and then not try and implement some of the principles that I've learned. Because in my head, I'm here for the reason of I'm trying to improve my skill set. And a part of that skill set means I need to repeat this stuff. And this stuff needs to be internalized in what I do. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm going to a seminar that's doing what I would class as like a high grade kata, but all that basically means is that we don't teach it to Q grades. Not because it's too difficult or the principles are too hard. It's just, I've only got so many katas I can teach to people without it, overstimulating the syllabus. However, I like to think that me and my other instructors that we teach with, we play with that stuff ourselves. And we just go, oh, can you remember that thing we did? Yeah, let's work through that a little bit. Let's make sure we keep it in the head and, keep using it. But I know there is a lot of instructors that kind of go to these things. They learn all this really great content and they do nothing with it. And that's fine if you're one of those people that is in for the social, in for that stuff. But for me, it's like, why would you not want to try and implement this stuff to what you do? Now, don't get me wrong, you might not have the right to do that. Maybe you're an instructor at the club and then the head instructor's told you, no, we're not doing any of this E and Abernethy rubbish or whatever it might be, right? However, if you do have the control and you do have the ability to do so, why are you not implementing it into your training? Or, why are you not trying to at least introduce others to this, to this world, to kind of broaden your horizons with it? Because one of the big tells for me is that you sometimes see people at these kind of seminar events, like people that you see them on a regular basis, and you sometimes think that I don't, from the last time I saw you, I don't feel like you've got any better at this stuff. And that's not me trying to be horrible, but I mean, like, it's quite clearly like it's more of like a hobby thing that you've popped along to this, opposed to the fact that you actually care about getting better at it. And like, I'm actually funny, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up my arse in any respect whatsoever, but one of the most memorable things in one of the seminars I did last year was, so bearing in mind, so like I mentioned at the beginning, I started doing seminars when I was 22. And, I started off with an Ian seminar and, began to train with him more regularly and stuff. And I started to be like, hello, Ian, you know who I am now. I try and make it to these things because I'm trying to build my club. I'm trying to introduce more practical elements to the way that I teach. And a lot of the principles that he's taught me I have tried to start teaching straight away, or at least picked the things that I understand the best, and then I've implemented them. And because of that, I've been training them regularly. So when I'm going back to the seminars, I'm a little bit better than I was the time before. And the big tell for me recently was I had to uki for him at one of his seminars he did with the Dragon Tree guys, Dave Webster, Jim Lott, and all their awesome students. And I had to uki for Ian, and I remember we were doing like a very light grappling drill. We were doing some kata-based sparring. Obviously, for those of you that we've talked about kata a lot today, but kata-based sparring is sparring with the kata, but one of you has to understand that this is built for self-defense, and you're not trying to outfight each other with like ridiculously complicated like skill set. You're not going to start arm barring people. You're not going to start doing crazy stuff. It's I'm the thug that's just going to keep being a nuisance. So either I keep throwing shots, keep pushing, whatever. Anyway, but a part of this day was that we were doing some basic grappling drills. So the idea of basic framing, basic arm manipulations, head control, limb control, all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things that Ian was talking about, he was just like, yeah, so just have a play. And that's what he said. So he was like, me and Jack would just quickly demo. And we were having a play. And I remember like after we'd done it, he kind of came to like speak to me privately, and he was just like, "That was really fun." He goes, "You've got a lot better at this," and he was like, from the last time like, I properly saw you, I actually, got to train with you opposed to, teaching you. He said, "There's a noticeable difference," and I'm pretty sure he actually reached out to Jamie Clubb. So obviously, you guys remember Jamie Clubb from the last season. I train with him really regularly, and I'm pretty sure he reached out to Jamie as well, saying, "Oh yeah, clearly whatever you're teaching is working because he's getting better." But the thing that I kind of took away from that though was that like I'm using this stuff effectively because I'm actually improving, and for me, I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people need to remember when going to seminars is, why am I going to this seminar? What is the purpose for me, and what am I actually trying to get out of it? Because I think it's very easy to get into the habit of just turning up for the sake of turning up, and then not really getting your money's worth from what you've actually signed up to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I think weirdly my takeaway from this, and this will be our closing statement kind of thing, will be from everything kind of we've discussed, kind of the pros and cons. I think it's safe to say that the best seminars are for everyone.
Yes.
And that is something that doesn't come just from the instructor or the high grades present or the students present. That's a communal thing.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a case of it comes from an experienced instructor and people who are there to learn for the right reasons.
Yes.
And when you get that kind of conjoining of the stars, or the aligning of the stars, sorry, like that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And those seminars, they'll live rent free in your head forever.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of why the martial arts seminar for me is such an amazing thing to experience.
Yes.
Because, like I said, it doesn't matter who you are or what background you have, be it martial arts or otherwise. Everybody's welcome on the mat in a seminar.
Yes, yeah.
And the best ones are just, they cater for everybody.
Yeah. I think that's the important thing. It's like the catering for everybody is the key. It's like, what I just said there, that's what I want out of a seminar. So for me, I'm looking at it through the lens of an instructor that is trying to implement this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a retired 60-year-old, 70-year-old that's, potentially doesn't have a club anymore, that just wants a social. So for me, it's far more important that I implement this stuff because it makes my club better. It makes me better. And, Pat, you hit the nail on the head there, mate. It needs to be something that is open for everybody, is able to cater for all of those people in its own right. And that comes down to good instructors, right? It comes down to people that know how to run seminars. It comes down to knowing your demographic and understanding how to make sure that everybody is looked after and what's what am I trying to say? everybody's looked after within that space, and knows that you're there for them. So, I think my closing thing would be going into a seminar. If you're looking to book onto one, know what you're trying to get out of it. Like, what does it mean to you, and is the seminar going to be the thing that you want it to be, and is it going to be useful for you? If it's for the social, go for the social. If it's for enhancing skills, go for it. Are you looking to implement this stuff in sparring? It's why am I going to this seminar, and what does this give me in my life?
Completely, man. Completely. Well, thank you for today.
It's been awesome.
Right, as to the usual spiel, if you are looking to support the podcast, please get on iTunes, get on Apple Podcasts, get on Spotify, get on any and every podcast platform you have and you can think of. Give us 5 stars, leave a comment, get that integration going. I think, for the sake of the argument, if you listen to this podcast, please tell me your favourite colour. It really doesn't matter what is put down. It's just about getting the interaction with the podcast up. The more ratings we have, the higher the chance we shoot, and it just really helps drive us up
100%.
and get our, allow us to kind of hit more of a wider audience. If you are looking to get in touch with me, call me a lazy bastard on the mat, then please feel free to get in contact at Good Medicine Martial Artist on Instagram. Jack, where can we find you? Where can we find the club?
You can find me at www.cotswoldkarateschool.com. And if you are somebody that is looking to enhance your skills through a seminar, or you're looking for a social, or you're looking for a nice day out, pop onto the website, have a look down at seminar dates in the top column, and you will find all of the dates for all the things that we're doing this year. As it stands at the moment, we have got Jamie Clubb coming to visit us sometime in the summer. It's undetermined yet, for a seminar regarding grappling and groundwork. Now, that hasn't been fully confirmed with all the major details yet. However, that is the main one of the summer. Obviously, we've recently just hosted Ian today, and we had Jeff Chan in January. There is a likelihood that we might also be doing a seminar later in the year. Other than that, you can find me on Instagram at Cotswold Karate School. And of course, guys, you can follow us on the Armchair Combatives podcast Instagram as well.
Nice one, Jack. Thank you for talking, and thank you, everyone, for listening.
Take care. See you later.